Saloon Door started out when a guy who was living in San Diego had a batting cage. And in that same strip center with his batting cage, there was a little brewery. And over the 2 or 3 years that he had that batting cage, the brewery took over the entire rest of the strip center and half his batting cage. And he was like, I got to get in the beer industry. As long as your beer doesn't re-ferment, your beer's ABV is going to stay the same. The reason ABV goes up is because you are actually acquiring some of the liquor out of the barrel to put into your beer. That is what's improving the ABV of your liquid, is that you're taking a high ABV product and mixing it into your lower ABV product, and so the average goes up.
So wait, the barrel you get, there's just liquor like soaked in the wood?
Yes.
Still, and that actually, wow.
Yeah, you cannot make a better combo than peanut butter and chocolate. But we thought, this is a pastry, this is a dessert, this is going to be a fun novelty that we just have in the tasting room that people come out like, oh yeah, that's fun. We get a little pour. All right, cool. Now give me a real beer. No, man, they come, they get this and they love it and they drink it all night and it becomes our #1 seller. Somebody comes in, they drink that beer and go, man, that beer is tasty AF. It's like, you're right, it is. That's the name we put on it.
Awesome.
Warning, may contain beer, peanut butter and chocolate, beer aging process, beer testing, and/or peanuts. Ian Woodstock.
Thank you so much for letting us come to your home and try some badass beers.
Yeah, thanks for coming by. Thanks for having me on.
How long have you been working for Saloon Door?
The whole time.
The whole time.
Yeah.
How long has that been? It's been for a while?
Yeah. So I've been here 7.5-ish years. I got in before we even actually opened this place up. This place was basically an empty building with a bunch of tanks in the back and loose piping and no tables or any of that stuff. I was part of the team helping get everything hooked up. We're actually celebrating our 7th anniversary of being open at the end of April. Last weekend, I think it's the 28th, 29th, and 30th. Big 3-day bash. We always try to do like a big thing for our anniversary party. We try to drop something special. This year, we brewed a brand new IPA that we made with the thiolized yeast, the Star Party. We found this brand new hop called Mackenzie, and it's really wild. It's got like tropical notes. It's got some like classic pine and resin notes. It's got like a woodiness to it. It's wild, and I love it. I love weird hops, and I love hops that like do lots of things at once. And as soon as I got this sample and I opened it up and I smelled it, I was like, I have to make an IPA with this. Yep. And so just a couple weeks ago, we actually brewed it. Big old bag. Just you open that up. I smelled it. Lewis smelled it. Like everyone was here. It's like, you got to try this. Like you got to try this. Take the whole thing, dump it right in the boil. And then once we got that, I'm actually about to dry hop it now, coming up at the end of this weekend. I got another bag. I'm going to climb up there, just pour all these hops into that fermenter. And so it's going to really come out bright and floral. All these like just crazy rich, the way you make IPAs nowadays is like, it's all about those post-boil hops. It's the floral character, it's the esters, it's the aromatics, it's the flavor of it. And this one is chock full, and it's going to be brilliant. And I'm really excited for when it's going to come out. And I almost can't wait the 3-4 weeks I got to wait for it.
Where are those hops? What country do those come from?
Yeah, you got to lean right up into that one. So
Yeah,
we got 5 boys on the mic right now, and so we got 2 sharing. But lean on in so people can hear your beautiful gravelly voice, Brett.
Yeah,
real quick, because I want to take my first sip of beer. Let's get a cheers, guys.
Yeah, cheers.
Cheers.
There's the Saloon Door letting us come in the home.
Saloon Door.
Yeah, I think Mackenzie is actually an American hop. Okay. We did talk earlier about how like there's all sorts of new and crazy hops that are coming out of different regions. And like I do love all of those South African, Australian, New Zealand hops, the things like the Motuekas, the Nelson Sauvins, those are brilliant. But like the guys up in the Yakima Valley, they are breeding some wild and weird hops, and they're great. I love it. another one that like I wasn't expecting to be so good, but when I did find it, I was like, I read about it and I was really interested. Out of Slovenia, the Styrian Wolf. It's a hop we used this last October for our Monster Smash, and so we made a smash beer with this Wolf hop, and you drink this Smash IPA and you go, there's no way you only used one hop because it's got so many wild characters. So like they're making all sorts of great things with hops nowadays everywhere they're growing up. I'm really, really happy to be in this industry. I'm really excited about the kinds of things you can do. And like, I'm just kind of grateful that I'm a hop head and everyone else is like making stuff for me.
Yeah.
I love that you're taking shit from all over the world too.
Yeah.
The world that we live in right now, it's so fucking flat. I hope we keep those supply chains open because COVID fucking sucked.
Yeah.
This guy knows Slovenia. Did
I
you
do.
say that's
Yeah,
like your favorite country?
Yeah, it's probably one of my favorite countries.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So have you been?
I've not, no.
We were talking about Europe earlier, and Slovenia is definitely one of my favorite countries.
Yeah.
Super green.
I need to make a trip back over there.
It's fantastic. Yeah, I was telling these guys actually, they have a system like in the city center to where like it separates your trash for you. So like in the trash can, recycling or trash, you dump it in and it falls straight down, and there's a conveyor belt underground that takes it to like the correct place to separate the trash.
That's the future.
Yeah. It is a futuristic kind of, it's super cool. Yeah. The greenest country in Europe is got labeled that. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
So tell us a little bit about the history of Saloon Door. You said it's been 7 years.
Yeah.
Who decided to get this thing rolling? How'd you get your name? And what's the story behind Saloon Door?
Yeah. So Saloon Door started out when a guy who was living in San Diego had a batting cage. And in that same strip center with his batting cage, there was a little brewery. And over the 2 or 3 years that he had that batting cage, the brewery took over the entire rest of the strip center and half his batting cage. And he was like, I got to get in the beer industry. So that was Jason. And then he roped in his dad, Jeff, his brother-in-law Josh, and his buddy Austin, and those are the 4 like founding members. They were the ones that were putting this all together. Josh was the only one who had done any brewing. He was a home brewer, and basically as soon as they got started, they were like, we need to have more than one person who knows how to brew beer. And so my cousin Austin was like, I might know a guy. And I was formerly of oil and gas in between jobs looking for what I wanted to do next. And I got the call and he said, do you want to come and make beer for a living? It's like, yeah, that's what I want to do. This is what I'm doing now. And so I showed up, I met all the guys, we got started, we built this place. I did a lot of home brewing with Josh before we got this system all hooked up to start, where we were refining all of our recipes. It was actually during that stage that we made the transition from the original name into Saloon Door. So the original name was Southern Draw, which I don't know where that name originally came from, but we were going through the process of getting all the like trademarks and the like art and stuff for it. And the trademark board came back and said, you might have an issue with this one because somebody has a trademark on something very similar in the same industry. And so we were like, well, okay, let's not be confused. Let's do something else. And so we were already SDB operating code. So it's like, all right, we need SDB names, like Sexy Dudes Brewing Company. Like we were going to do a calendar and everything. It was going to be great. But we eventually found Saloon Door Brewing. And like, as soon as it was said out loud, we're like, yeah, that's it.
Yep.
It's Saloon Door, because as soon as you said, like, you can see the style, you can see the artwork, you can see the feel, you know what Saloon Door Brewing is. And like we took that and we ran with it, and we luckily were able to make that change before we even opened. And so we didn't have like a whole bunch of brand confusion where we had to teach people a new thing. It's like, nah, just don't ever tell anyone the original. We're just Saloon Door Brewing. And yeah, so we opened up, we had a handful of recipes that were from Josh's recipe book that I helped him refine from homebrew recipes into, the big scalable versions that we can do when we can repeat and we can get them right. We can get them tasting the way we want them. We started to have a lot of fun with like figuring out adding flavors and stuff. And, one of the flavor concoctions we came up with was this peanut butter and chocolate in the milk stout. And, peanut butter and chocolate, there's a reason Reese's says perfect is because it is. It like you cannot make a better combo than peanut butter and chocolate. But we thought, this is a pastry. This is a dessert. This is going to be a fun novelty that we just have in the tasting room that people come out like, oh yeah, that's fun. And they get a little pour. All right, cool. Now give me a real beer. No, man, they come, they get this and they love it and they drink it all night and it becomes our #1 seller and it wins us I can't remember. I think it was Houston Beer Guide's March Madness bracket. Like so we celebrate our anniversary in April. So the 11th month, March, in the first year we're open, we win the bracket with Tasty AF. Yeah, it was great. It was
I was the original name, Tasty AF.
Yeah, Tasty AF. It didn't have a name before that. It was just peanut butter and chocolate milk stout. But somebody comes in, they drink that beer, go, man, that beer is Tasty AF. It's like, you're right, it is. That's the name we put on it.
That's awesome. Awesome. Yeah. So we have a flight in front of me. You have a little bit different flight, right?
Yeah.
So this one says RIDAF. Is that off of that?
That is the ridiculous AF. So the Tasty AF is the peanut butter chocolate milk stout on nitro. It's 6% ABV. It's more of a sessionable beer. It's a little bit too big to be a session at 6%, but it's more sessionable because the ridiculous AF is the Imperial Stout version of it. We first dropped it for our first anniversary or our second anniversary when we made the Imperial Stout, and we did the same peanut butter and chocolate, but this is on a 12% stout.
Ooh,
and so you go from tasty into ridiculous. And then actually a thing we've done a couple times now is we'll do a little barrel program and we'll take that Russian and we'll throw it in a barrel and it'll be now bourbon barrel aged peanut butter chocolate, and it is the ludicrous.
What does that raise the ABV to?
It raises it to 13.
Nice.
Yeah.
And when you get a barrel age, as this group knows, it always makes it better. I've never had two beers next to each other where the barrel age is not better. 100% of the time.
And how long do you guys age it for in the barrels?
So we've kind of varied on that. You do want to age it a minimum 6 months in order to get the kind of transfer through the barrel so that you get the flavor you want out of it. We have aged our stuff up to and even past a little bit a year. And what's really interesting is that between the 6 and 9 months, you don't get a lot of change. But as you approach a year and go past a year, you start to get another character out of that barrel. And it does different things, and it's interesting to see how it comes through. We've never had an active enough barrel program to do actual barrel blending where it's like, I'm going to pull a thief from this one and a thief from that one, and a thief from that one, and be like, all right, I want 60% and 20% and 20%. No, it's just, you get the barrel as it comes. Yeah. But the reason that you will go through different aging processes like that is because while each barrel is unique, also the amount of time you age them does different things. And so if you want a certain flavor profile, you can actually blend those barrels together to get the one you want, which is another fun thing that I am excited for. The next time we take a growth step is we want to get a real robust barrel program going like that, where I've always got barrels rotating.
What's your favorite type of barrel? Your personal favorite?
Oh man, that one's rough. Bourbon barrels are classic. You pretty much can't go wrong with it. If you're getting even a middle level quality bourbon barrel, it's going to do wonderful things with your beer. We've done a couple rum barrels. Those are always fun. I've not had a chance yet to do a tequila barrel, but I'm interested in those. Yeah.
Can't say I'm a huge fan of tequila barrel beers.
I know
I had a sour 16% from Martin House that was amazing.
Sour.
Oh,
I
yeah.
guess that
Tequila
would pair
barrel
well, yeah.
sour.
Yeah, no, you
and I'm
definitely
not
want
sure
to
if
go.
lactose was
You
there.
definitely want to go sour on those. You want to do something that's a little bit funky.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a spicy stout with the tequila barrel, and it kind of worked, but it was one of those, like you said, you thought the tasty AF would be. It's a novelty. It's like, oh yeah, that's a nice little, nice little shot. But now let me try another beer that's not going to make me puke.
Yeah.
What's the purchasing process of like getting barrels to age your beer in?
So there's a couple different ways you can do it. A lot of the time we will partner up with like Yellow Rose Distilling just up the road here. And, we'll have in our schedule, hey, this is a batch that we're going to throw into barrels and this is where we're going to throw it in. I'll call them up and be like, yo, I would like to get this many gallons worth of barrels. This is the beer that I want to put in them. This is about the time that I am wanting it to be going into those barrels. Do you have something that's on your schedule that is like close to that? Can I adjust my schedule a little bit more to get like a fresh barrel from you? And we coordinate back and forth together with that for a little bit. And then once the beer is ready, we go over there, we grab the barrels, we bring them over, we put the beer right in them, stays fresh, stays wet, all that stuff. It's good. Another thing you can do, there are a couple different like barrel procurement people where like it's this one guy's job where he just goes and contacts different places that are dumping their barrels. They're emptying their liquid into whatever bottling they're going to do, and now their barrel's empty. And he will go and round up those barrels and just throw them on a pallet and resell them to whoever wants that specific barrel. He's got it for you.
That's cool.
That's a dream of mine, is to have my own barrel someday, just pour some beer in it. So with the barrel length, does it increase ABV over time, or does the ABV stay the same if you leave it in, say, 2 years versus the 1 versus 6 months?
No. So not really. There's a little bit of magic and a little bit of science in it. So mostly what's going to happen is as long as your beer doesn't re-ferment, your beer's ABV is going to stay the same. The reason ABV goes up is because you are actually acquiring some of the liquor out of the barrel to put into your beer. That is what's improving the ABV of your liquid, is that you're taking a high ABV product and mixing it into your lower ABV product. And so the average goes up.
So wait, the barrel you get, there's just liquor like soaked in the wood?
Yes.
Still? And that actually, wow.
Yeah.
I never thought of that.
Yeah. And there's actually liquid replacement where there's liquor in the wood and then beer, and you mix it so that now there's beer in the wood and the liquor has come into your product.
And that's how we get the Jameson barrel aged.
Yeah.
I think that's like the angel share and devil's cut, right? Comes out of the wood, like when you press it and stuff like that.
So the difference, so the angel share is the evaporation over time inside the barrel. That's the angel share, where they add their high ABV liquid and put it in the barrel to age for however long they're going to go. And over time, it will evaporate out. Alcohol evaporates first. It has a lower vapor point. And so most of what goes off is actually the alcohol. And so your leftover product is actually lower in ABV than you started. But that's why,
And that's with the spirits.
That's with spirits. That's why they distill them, way, way high and then put them in the barrel to age it, is because it will actually come down in ABV over that aging time because of the angel share. The devil's cut is what gets sucked up into the wood. And that's what they were calling it when they would extract the devil's cut. They take the barrel, they chop it up, they press it, they get the liquid out.
Yeah.
And so essentially what you're doing with barrel aging beer is you are trading the devil's cut. So you are putting your beer into the devil's cut to get the liquor out.
I like that.
You're making a deal with the devil.
Yeah, exactly. I like it. Yeah.
So can you leave beer in a barrel too long?
You can. There's beer ages only so well for almost all beer. There are a handful of golden exceptions to the rule, but typically if you're going to age a beer, you're aging it between 2 and 5 years, because if you're aging your beer and it's supposed to be aged, it never peaks before 2 years. But if you're aging it, it always drops off after 5. There are like 3 beers that do not drop off after 5 years. And one of them is J.W. Lee's Old Ale. If you find a 2001 J.W. Lee's, buy it and drink it because it's 22 years old and it's the best beer you're going to ever have.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Let's write that down.
Well, we have it on video now. So
Yeah.
That's
everyone revisit this.
Where are they out of? JWL.
J.W. Lee's is English.
Okay. That's much longer than I would have thought. I thought, like a year, but so you're saying 2 years minimum, basically.
Yeah. So if you're going to,
I can pull it if you need to.
yeah, if you're going to get a barley wine and age it, barley wines typically are best at about 2 years. Really, really high quality ones that have a lot of stuff that changes on purpose because of the trial and error of putting together a recipe, they will peak somewhere between the 2 and 5 year range. I have had very few beers that are better after 5 years than they were before it.
How many beers do you currently have, or how many barrels do you currently have sitting that are aging beer right now?
I actually have none right now. I dumped my last one. Yeah,
What,
but I
what
do
would
have
you guys have to do to this brewery in order to? Would you have to actually expand the infrastructure, have a separate area just for barrels, or what all goes into for you guys to be having that barrel aged year round type of deal?
I mean, most of what it is just the necessary square footage. I've only got so much space to put all the things that I need, and barreling just it takes a footprint, and I've only got so much footprint, and so in order to have a big robust barrel program where I'm constantly cycling batches of beer, I've really only got enough room to put about one batch of beer in barrels, and so the batch goes in. And then it goes out.
How many barrels do you do per batch? You just have one barrel that you fill up until it's full, or do you get multiple barrels to?
No,
put the
yeah,
whole batch?
we get multiple barrels, and so I have what's called a 10-barrel brew system, which is 10 beer barrels. Beer barrels are 31 gallons, so I'm making 310 gallons of beer every single batch I brew. And so when I'm going to age a batch, I'm aging about 300 gallons. There's a little bit of loss on there. I don't age a full 300, but so
How many gallons do you drink?
That sounds like, what's that?
10.
who are you? No. So yeah. So I'm getting about 300 gallons worth of barrels, and so if you've seen the barrels in the distilleries, either in commercials or been there personally, those big old barrels, those are 53 gallons each, and so I get 5 of those plus one little one, and that's about my 300 gallons.
Gotcha.
So someone was telling me the size of the barrel matters. I guess it's the surface area that it's touching the liquid.
Yeah, so surface area to volume ratio. Because actually the 6-month rule that I said earlier, that is for the 53-gallon barrel, because there's a lot more volume per surface area in there. And so the amount of flavor transfer you're going to get is slower, which is why, it takes 2-3+ years for liquors to properly age, is because they're going through that expansion and contraction process of the change in temperature over the course of the year. And it's imparting the liquid back and forth. You get that faster on a smaller barrel because you have a lot more surface area per volume now. And so on the 30-gallon ones, you actually don't need all 6 months. And there's a couple places that will do 15 and 12-gallon barrels, and those can impart flavor real quick.
And so something that normally would be 2 years to get there, you could cut that time in half,
Into
a
months.
third, into months.
Yeah.
Okay. And you still get the same flavor profile as sitting there in
So
the for 2 years.
I don't know for a fact, but I have heard stories about people who they're the small time craft liquor people where they make very small batches of liquor. And, they do the full 2 years of aging, but they do their 2 years of aging in tiny barrels. And so it tastes like a 7-year-old beer.
5-7 year old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not beer, but liquor. Yeah.
I've actually seen something online. I'm not sure how it works, but you get a mason jar and you just have a lid that has a wood, and you char the wood on the lid of that.
Oh, yeah.
And then twist it on. And apparently in a few months, you'll be able to have an aged or a smoked liquor. It's typically for a whiskey or something like that.
Yeah, no. So they've even like made this technology special for like the homebrew scale. You know, you got a 5-gallon glass carboy that you put your homebrew in, but you want it to taste like you threw it in a barrel. They have spirals of wood that they char, and it's like, this is a wood spiral that is French oak charred like French oak barrels are, and you just take that spiral and you drop it in there, and 2 weeks later it tastes like you have this 6-month aged, you know, imperial stout with barrel character.
But from what I understand with barrels, it's about the like air, not air, but it has to be exposed to the air versus just inside the beer, right? Or I guess liquor.
Well, so
it's the breathing, like you said.
Yeah.
Right?
So you want it exposed to weather. So like if you have your, you know, your barrel condition in a fully climate controlled area, it's not going to experience a lot of temperature swing. And so it's not going to experience that flexion and contraction and a lot of stuff, which is what pushes the liquid in and out of the wood, which is why, when you see like liquors being aged in barrels, they're aged in these barns that have no air conditioning. It's so it experiences the full temperature swing summer to winter.
Just keeps it out of the sun, but the temperature.
Yeah, you keep it out of the sun, but yeah, you let it fluctuate from, you know, 80 degrees down to 40 degrees, and so it goes through a big old swing and it pushes that liquid in and out. I've heard of places doing like an artificial version of that, where you can take a smaller barrel and you can put it into a climate controlled room that you actually have on a cycle, where it will swing temperature up, and then, like, you know, you can do it over the course of a few weeks instead of the entire year. Temperature up and then temperature down, and then temperature up and then temperature down. And so if you've got your temperature swing, you've got your volume to surface area ratio, you can do a lot of stuff. The thing you don't necessarily want is oxygen exposure. These barrels do come pretty, like the staves themselves are tightly packed together, and then the opening that you have to put your liquid in, you take a bung and you hammer it down in there, and you want it to seal pretty well, because you don't want a lot of oxygen in there, especially on something like your beer. Liquor doesn't react to oxygen nearly as much, but beer is very susceptible to oxygen. And so leaving it open to oxygen will dramatically age the beer. The reason your 2 to 5 year aging on your beer is nice is because it's kept in a sealed container, and the amount of oxygen that was in there when it was sealed is all the oxygen you want to touch it. If you have it leaking open to other things, instead of that 2 to 5 years, you have like maybe 2 to 5 days. If it's got a lot of oxygen penetration, like a lot of dissolved oxygen in there, because it will go through that process much quicker, and you will not be able to catch it before it's ruined.
So along those lines, I'm curious, because I know we've talked about this ourselves. So for when you have a can or a bottle of beer, at what point for an ABV could you hold on to something for an extended period of time versus something you know, there's a lot of stuff when you go to breweries, they say, drink it now, keep it cold, drink it immediately. There's stuff, and I have my own thoughts, but what's your opinion as far as the ABV threshold to which you would want to age a beer, or you can have a beer sitting in your fridge for, you know, more than a couple of months?
So there's not a hard rule on it, but a good one to follow is don't age anything that isn't double digits or better.
Double digits. Okay. Yeah. So 8.5 is what I've been told. That's wrong.
I mean, like you can age it. And like it just depends on the beer at that point. Basically, every beer that is 10% or better is okay to age. Beers that are under 10%, you start to have variability in whether or not this beer is supposed to be aged. 7 and less, don't do it. It's not the right beer.
Sooner the better.
Yeah. Like the weird exception to this is like lagers. You're not really supposed to age lagers for years at a time, but lagers do get better with cold aging. The rule to keep it cold is a good rule. It's good for all of them. It does slow down the aging process. And so like if you're getting, you know, an imperial stout or a quad or something, you can put that in a closet. You know, don't let it get above 75 degrees. It'll be fine. But like, you get a lager, especially something with a bit of oomph to it, like, a Marzen, a Bach, whatever. Let it sit cold for 90, 120 days, and it's going to taste better than it did the day you bought it.
Out of a glass bottle, like,
Yeah.
okay.
If you keep something like I have a shelf next to the beer fridge, and sometimes I don't have enough room in the beer fridge, so some stuff stays sitting in like a shelf, just in the garage.
Yeah.
In
Get way
Houston,
above
Texas, it gets
70s.
super hot.
Yeah.
And so I've tried like a barrel age or like a 10%, something really high ABV, and I've tried it after, where I put it in the fridge, cooled it, and then drank it. And it's a totally different flavor, but it's not bad to me. It still tastes well.
Yeah. So the thing about leaving it out, especially in high temperature environments, is it's going to go through that aging process very quickly. And if you get temperatures too high, it's not only going to age, it's also going to cook a little bit. And so it's going to give you a different aging process than if you simply let it sit at cellar temperatures or fridge temperatures. So like, you can get away with doing that for a few weeks, a few months. But like if you tried to put a beer next to a refrigerator in a hot garage and drank it after 2 years, I don't think that would be the beer you want it to be.
So if you do have a beer fridge, lucky you, Joe, that's too full, just put in a closet inside.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good to know. Well, I want to highlight a few of your beers. I've got a sampler here, and I kind of want to talk a little bit about them. I've just got a little list here that I don't know what they mean, but
So those are numbered 1 through 5 and are in order in your tasting regimen here.
so this first one, ESB.
Yes.
Tell me about that beer a little bit.
So the ESB is extra special bitter. It is a classic old school English pub ale. It's actually what I'm drinking a full pint of. It's one of my favorite beers. It is boring and nerdy and like not approachable at all, but it's wonderful. It's old school. It's classic. It tastes like beer. It tastes like, when you get off of work and you're going to go to the pub and you're going to sit there all night, have dinner. This is the beer you're drinking with it. This is an adaptation from my dad's recipe from homebrew. It's one of the first recipes I put together. It holds a very special place for me, and I just really enjoy it. And I wish more of these were available on the market. Every now and then I find somebody who has made an ESB. I was like, give me that one.
Yeah, you're right. They're not that common, at least across a lot of craft breweries.
Yeah.
I'm a big ESB fan as well.
It's delicious. I don't know if I've ever had one, to be honest with you. You keep saying pub. Did you mention that you spent some time over in the British Isles?
I did. I went to school at Trinity in Dublin for a little bit. And so I lived over there, and I did some hopping over onto the continent and got to have a lot of fun over there. But I lived in Ireland for a while, and it was wonderful. It was cold. It was green. It was always wet. The thing about Ireland is that it never actually rains. It's always just rained. The rain has just stopped, but everything is still wet. But it's wonderful. You go out at night. It's cold. You go and you find your neighborhood pub that's just around the corner. It's full of a bunch of old guys sitting around smoking their cigarettes and drinking their Guinness. You go upstairs and you hang out with your friends, and there's a band downstairs, and it's just a good time.
Only time I've spent in Ireland was actually with Sean over here. We were in Dublin. Is Guinness like a staple over there? Is that a daily drinker for them?
Yeah, Guinness is one of the session ales because Guinness is like it tastes like a big beer, but it's really just thick and heavy.
Well, it's 6%.
Yeah, it's only like 4.
So
Really?
So
higher.
Guinness Extra Stout, Guinness Export, the one that you think is a Guinness is the 6%, but the one that you see poured on nitro, the Guinness Draft that comes in those big old cans, that's 4.5.
Wow.
And so that is meant to allow you to drink it for dinner and wake up the next day perfectly fine.
I loved the ability to pour my own Guinness. They taught you how to do it with the whole in the brewery over there. It's amazing. I would recommend it to anyone that goes over that way. Hit up Dublin and do the Jameson distillery was probably my favorite. just because it gets me drunker faster.
Yeah.
I remember when I found out about Guinness, and because I used to just drink it all the time before I knew what the ABV was, because it tastes like it's 10%. You know, it tastes really, really high ABV, and the fact that they managed to pack that many calories into a beer that has the same ABV as like a Coors Light is impressive.
Yeah,
but damn, it's delicious though.
Yeah.
It is. It's so good. Next one on my list is IDL. What's that guy?
That's IPL. That's an India Pale. Yeah, the handwriting. That's an India Pale Lager.
That makes more sense.
Yeah.
I know what an IPL is. Okay.
Yeah,
Indian Dick Ale.
Yeah, so this is one of those new crazes with craft beer that started up a couple years ago. The India Pale Lager, the cold IPA. This is an India Pale Lager because I hopped it like an IPA, I bittered it like an IPA, I salted it like an IPA, but I brewed it on a lager yeast, and I brewed it
You brew it cold?
Yes, fermented it cold, fermented it nice and long. It's a different yeast strain. It does a whole different character to it. The ale yeast like to ferment up at room temperature. Lager yeast like to ferment down at cellar temperature or colder. And so it's a slower process. It imparts different flavors into it. Ales like to have one flavor profile. Lagers like to have another flavor profile. They impart different kinds of bodies to it, different feels. They have different finishes. I really like the way this turned out. I have been a fan of lagers for quite a while. When I got to do our first lager series, and IPL was one that I was excited to throw on to that chain of brewing. And this is the latest IPL we made. We just released it, I don't know, 2-3 weeks ago. And so it's still nice and fresh, and I really enjoy it. It's got, what is it? It's Citra, Mosaic, and Hallertau Blanc are the hops that we threw in there. And we really went heavy on the Hallertau Blanc. It's that German hop. It's the one that is competing with the Nelson Sauvins, the Motuekas. It's a German hop that tastes like it's from New Zealand. It's great.
The fact that you know all of that about hops, I'll never get to that.
Pretty sexy, right?
I can see his passion for hops.
Yeah.
He's like, I really get off to that.
His eyes light up. So is this more difficult to brew than other beers, a lager versus an ale?
A little bit. Lagers do take a little bit more care. They take a little bit more time. We got lucky in our brew system that we have an oversized heat exchanger. And so I can still knock the beer out in the same amount of time from kettle to fermenter, and I can get it that much colder. I don't have to take extra time. I don't have to do any extra weird steps. I can just get it cold, fast, and start fermenting.
Nice.
What's the temperature that you're resting, like the IPL? What temperature are you sitting at there where you're?
I like to ferment my lagers in the 50-degree range.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a specific beer as far as difficulty goes that you've got to the point where you brewed it to the end and you just had to throw it away because it just did not turn out?
I have been really lucky on that front that I've not had to throw a beer away.
Has there been a beer that you couldn't get through a whole pint?
Oh, plenty of those. Bro, I don't drink a whole pint of ridiculous. I like to be able to walk around.
See, I would be that guy, and I'd be like, no, I'm fine.
Yeah, no, but in 7.5 years of brewing, I've definitely met my fair share of curveballs in the brewing experience. The wonderful thing about beer, though, is that beer is very forgiving as long as you're willing to go where it wants to go. A lot of the times the beer will obey you. It will do what you tell it to do. And, there's only a few steps you got to do in order to not make a bad beer. There's some magic you got to do to make a great beer, but there's only a few steps you got to do to make a not bad beer. You keep things clean, do it consistently. There's just a couple things you do, and your beer is going to turn out all right because it's beer. You can only mess it up so much. But there are a couple things where you can mess up a step, but you can recover from it and still get what you were looking for. There are some things where you can mess up a step and you can recover from it. You're just not making the beer you started out making. You're making a different beer now. You just got to be able to recognize when that happens and follow it.
You're a true beer lover when you talk about beers. If it's you're personifying it, it's like, yeah, it's not listening to me, so I'm just going to do it at once.
Yeah.
I'm just going to do it at once.
Yeah, no. The best example of that we had was I had a recipe for a beer and I had an intended goal for it, and I started brewing it, and I took my first sample, got my first reading, and it was way off. And like instantly panic mode. How do I fix this? What do? I grab a bag of sugar, I dump it in there because I'm like way too many points low. All right, cool. So I've recovered some of those points, but sugar is 100% fermentable. I've lost body. So now I've gone and changed it again. But like, you take a second, you breathe, you have a beer and you're like, all right, so
have a beer, of course.
I know what I can still do with this, and I can follow it, and I can let it do what it wants to do, and it's a winter warmer now instead of a barley wine because it hit 10, 12 on the final gravity, and it's like super dry and crushable, and also 10% ABV, which is a bad combination.
or good.
So I'm really curious on like the testing scale. So like you're saying there's a different scale based on the type of beer you have, and there's a rating that, for example, you said you added sugar. What reading did you get saying like I need to add to this?
Oh, so I took my initial gravity reading. The specific gravity is a density reading. It tells you how much dissolved sugar you have in your liquid. The way you make beer is you take water, add a whole bunch of sugar to it, boil it, add some flowers to it, and then add some fungus to it. And that's how you make beer. So I was short on my sugar. But like there's different kinds of sugar. When you're making beer, you're making it largely out of malted barley. And so it's gonna have different kinds of sugar chains in it. Some are longer, some are shorter. The longer chain sugars are harder for the yeast to eat. They get left behind. They give you the complex sugar flavors like the caramels, the toast, the roast, all that stuff. The short chain sugars are what just impart straight sweetness. They're what the yeast eat. They're what turn into alcohol. And so I got my initial gravity reading. I knew how much sugar I was going to have in this, and I was points low. I was not going to hit the ABV I was looking for. Like this was not going to be big enough to be the barley wine I wanted it to be. But I had a bag of sugar. I can add points. I can get ABV back out of this. Dump that in there. All right, cool. But that sugar is 100% fermentable. I'm not going to have the body. I'm not going to have all those long chain sugars I was looking for. And so it's going to dry out. It's going to eat all that sugar. And so now it's going to hit the ABV I want, but it's not going to be as thick. Mm-hmm. And so like, it's one of those things where once you have brewed enough batches, you kind of get a handle on the way beer wants to operate, the way it likes behaving, the way making one decision changes others down the line, and just getting used to how those work.
So on the scale of reproducibility, you have like Budweiser, which is like you have to train for years and years just to be able to be a brewmaster because it has to be the same every single time. Yeah. Then the other side of the scale, I'd say like a Martin House type thing where even if they make the same beer, it's going to be different every year. Where would you put yourself on that scale?
So I'm actually going to say that's a bad scale. No, but it's because like I do both parts of it. And a lot of people do. A lot of places do all that stuff. We take very good notes. The way we put our recipes together, they are designed to be a little bit idiot proof. And so when we make a beer, we do want to be able to make it that way again. But there's some beers that are brand new. And so it's like, well, it turned out this way. You know what? I'm not upset about that. I like it this way. And I took my notes and I know how I can make it do that again.
Mm-hmm. Those notes, that's going to be the important part. The happy accidents turn into reproducible. Okay. Yeah. I like that.
How many brewers are there here at Saloon Door?
So it's me, my right-hand man, Lewis, and Josh, our original beer master, has basically become a stay-at-home dad who does a little bit of admin work.
I want to meet Josh. That's a goal in life of mine right there.
So it'd be fair to say that because we can find Saloon Door all over Houston, and you and your right-hand man have basically touched every single can. Not the canning obviously, but the liquid itself. You got a hand in making every single one. Yep, that is incredible.
I'm a busy boy.
Saloon Door's all over HEBs. All across Texas.
I was going to ask, like, what what was the process of getting into like HEB and different markets to sell?
Man,
question.
that is that's a distribution team question. I just make the beer. Like, man, I don't go and
answer.
talk to I don't go and talk to grocery stores. I don't go and talk to distributors. It does take a distribution network to get in there. Just because it's a headache trying to organize all of your guys in your vans and routes and schedules and all that stuff.
Fighting for shelf space.
Yeah.
I mean, the competition's got to be insane, you know,
Yeah.
with all the craft breweries wanting to get that top shelf, that front shelf, the ends, you know, the ends of the aisles and stuff like that.
Well, the important part I speak for, I think everyone here, is just the quality of the beer. I mean, we have a lot of
100%.
breweries here that have fantastic artwork and it's beautiful. And every once in a while they have a home run, but
Like beer gardens that are huge and just amazing and so much activities, but then the focus on the actual product of the beer isn't there.
it's like the food's better than the beer.
Right. So like Saloon Door is like, they value their beer, what the product's coming out, the quality. I mean, just take so much pride in every individual beer. If it's your style, you're going to try it and you're going to love it.
My boy Joe here is Houston through and through, as you can see from his attire right now. And when I asked, I'm like, all right, guys, we've done a Dallas Bay. I did a little Hawaiian Bay. Let's do Houston now. It's time. We had so many options, and Joe specifically kept bringing up Saloon Door, Saloon Door, Saloon
man.
Door. And Joe, what was it about Saloon Door that led you this way?
Like I said, I mean, previously to that question was just the fact that, you know, when you come here, true beer drinkers that really appreciate the quality of a beer, you'll find them here, or you'll find them picking up the 6-packs at the store. I think there's only a few I can say about that in Houston. You have some that just have the beautiful skyline that I'm mesmerized myself. I think it's the best in the world, but I'm freaking biased.
A little biased.
But the quality of the beer, that's what it is. It doesn't matter where it takes you, or what part of town you're at, or where you're kind of off on this little small road and no one's getting traffic through there. But man, when you taste some quality and just pops and everything is just so crisp, and kind of back to his point about your scale, I mean, he's got to get that same product out so many times, consistency, you know, and that's huge.
Well, and I think Joe hit the nail on the head too. I've never had a bad Saloon Door beer. I've had some that aren't my type of beer, but like the quality of that it's rare that I could just, I mean, anywhere I go, if I see Saloon Door on draft or if it's something that's showing up in the fridge, it's always good. It just depends on obviously the kind of style that you like.
Yeah.
I mean,
Variety as well. Like all the varieties you get to choose from. I really appreciate that. It's like
ESB that hits as hard as it does. That's awesome.
Thank you guys. That really means a lot. This is my art form here. I get up in the morning and I come into work and I make something with my hands that I want to enjoy myself, but I want for other people to come and be able to enjoy it. It always does mean a lot to hear people appreciating that.
Yeah, fist bump.
Hell yeah.
Props.
Real good.
100%.
I'll never drink another Saloon Door without thinking of you, Alex.
So
go ahead,
John.
No, after you.
I was just going to move along to the next one because I've been sipping on this. I'm already halfway done, and I think of my boy Matt when I anything to do with German style beers.
Yeah.
The next one's the Berliner. Tell us about this one.
Oh yeah, the Berliner, man. Sours. I was asked about sours the very first day we were open. Like, when y'all gonna make a sour? When y'all gonna make a sour? It's like, man, if you've ever tried to brew, you've heard the horror stories about brewing sour. Just don't do it. Just don't.
Why is that?
So it's because to make a sour, you need to introduce a bacterial culture, because it needs to eat some of the sugar and produce things like lactic acid and other flavor components that bring the sourness to your product. The problem with that is that you've introduced a new kind of living bug to your environment, where previously it was only yeast, and it was all yeast that you knew that you could trust. These bugs that make sours are hardy little bastards, and they will find any nook and cranny to hide in. And unless you are at the tip top of your game on cleaning, it will turn your next beer sour, even though you didn't want it to. But luckily, a few years ago, the geniuses in yeast production came up with a yeast varietal that will also create lactic acid and other things. And so it's a yeast strain that imparts sour rather than trying to go with like a lactobacillus culture or anything like that. And so I don't got to do these weird 3-day hold the kettle at 140 degrees and then bring it up to a boil kind of style. I don't got to do any of that. I make the beer like I normally do. I put it in the fermenter. I pitch the yeast, and out the other side comes a sour beer, and it tastes exactly like I wanted it to. I am so happy we found this because it allowed me to start making sours a couple of years ago, like maybe even one and a half years ago, started being able to make these sours. This Berliner is like it's the one I'm most proud of because it's the third set at using this yeast strain. And I have made something that will be on that wall forever now because it is light, it is crushable, it's approachable, it's not too tart. We made a big sour for, I think that was for last year's anniversary. Was the big Berliner was like 8%. I also made a pickle goes. I really like how that turned out. But this is just the Berliner. It's a nice, approachable sour. We have the little syrup pumps if you want to do like, your blood orange or whatever. And so that's fun. But like it's my palate cleanser. It's my starter. It's the thing I go to when I want to have something light and crisp and refreshing, and like I want to like be able to swap away from whatever it is I was just drinking.
Interesting.
That's awesome. So we've already talked about Ridiculous AF. It's one I'm onto right now. I can't say enough about how good this beer is, man.
Thank you.
I'm a peanut butter chocolate man myself.
Yeah.
Porters are probably my favorite. Stouts are probably next. The darker side, the maltier side. And so when I get one that doesn't taste like chemicals, you get those plasticky tasting ones.
Yeah.
I imagine them getting some fucking like peanut butter Play-Doh and throwing it in there is what it tastes like sometimes.
Yeah.
But when you can get it to where it actually has a just fantastic profile and it just still, what was the ABV on this one?
That is 12.
12. I'm gonna get a pint of this. Who's driving?
So Jace, this is one that's not on yours, but I wanted to hear a little bit about the pretzel stout because that one was fantastic. But
yes, the pretzel stout. The pretzel stout was it was a fun project we did with a place over here called Craft 96. They're a kitchen and tap wall place. They serve craft beer and well-made food. And the guy over there, like we're good friends with him. He's bought beer from us for a while now. And this is actually the second one I think we put together with him. He was like, I want something with our pretzels. And I was like, well, I've never made a pretzel stout before. And so we put together this recipe, it's thick, it's rich, it's dark, it's salty. We threw pretzels in the mash and everything.
Nice.
And it turned out real great. And like, it's kind of the culmination of the things that I've been learning in my brewing career so far. Everything I've learned from doing stouts, everything I've learned from salting beer, from things like the salted caramel, from things like the Goza, all that stuff was like, all right, I think I can pull this off.
So what kind of salt do you use?
So
like a
pink Himalayan.
salt?
Yeah,
Himalayan.
Yeah, it depends on what you want to make. But like it's just table salt, sea salt.
Like there's nothing special about it. Just
well, I mean, so like there's different salts that you can use for different reasons. But like if what you just want to do is impart like just a simple little salt addition to make it pop for that, sodium chloride is just like, it's an easy one to go to. You don't need to get fancy stuff where you've got like alternative minerals in there to like give it color. You're not going to see the color. You're throwing it in your beer. So like,
What were you going to say, Sean?
Oh no, I was just gonna. I'm sure that the one that you're moving on to right now. I was gonna ask about. I was like, so what makes it a pretzel stout? And it's actually the pretzels that go into it. So
Yeah, it's the thickness and the malt profile that gives it the bready character. It's the salt that you throw in there, and then it's fun. We threw actual pretzels in it. It's
incredibly good.
So, what other beers do you have on your list that I don't have over here?
I have Pony Boy and Say When.
Between Pony Boy and Say When, which one you like better?
I would probably say Pony Boy.
Yeah,
Golden.
Yeah. That's the golden with coffee. Or is that Say When?
No. So the Pony Boy is the Texas Golden Strong, and the one we have on tap right now is the one with coffee. So that's the one you got poured. Yeah, So I enjoy doing like fun off things with beer. I've had an idea for like a golden stout for a while, and when they asked me to put together something that we could throw on nitro, because we need more nitro things, especially for the can, just because like doing nitro in a can is a whole thing in and of itself. And so if we can have like 2 or 3 lines that we can run through that nitro, it makes it a lot more worthwhile to have the nitro set up on the canning line. And so I was like, well, let's do a golden strong. Let's have some fun with this one.
So what makes a stout golden?
So,
but that's it's a golden ale. It's not a golden stout. Is there the big difference in there?
All right. So this is a couple of questions that they take a second to unpack. All stouts are ales. Ale is the yeast family, and stouts are just the heavy end of them. What makes a stout golden is actually you don't make a stout. Like these are the weird things that come up in the legacy naming convention of beer, because the reason the stout is named what it is because it is a stout porter, the original version of the recipe that the porters, the longshoremen, would have as their like go-to beer. It's this dark malty, slightly higher ABV pint. The stout porter is something that's a little bit bigger. It's a little bit thicker. It's stouter. And then, hundreds of years of conventions later, we have, stouts that are lighter than porters and all that kind of stuff. But so what makes a golden stout is that you make a beer that is big, it is thick, but it's yellow. You don't give it the darker grains in there that impart a lot of the color. But if you want it to still come out like a stout, you need to throw something in there to give it the flavor of those darker grains without imparting the color. That's where you do things like coffee and all that stuff. You got to be careful with how much coffee you add, because adding coffee will still impart color to it. It just doesn't impart it as much as adding the direct grains itself that would have originally given that roasty character to it.
It's like a roasted barley is what gives it the color. So
roasted barley, chocolate malt, like all that stuff.
Okay, yeah. Very cool. God damn.
Wow.
Who names them?
Mind explosion.
It's a whole group effort.
Who came up with Pony Boy? Because that's pretty good.
I think Austin did. I think Austin did.
I gotta meet Austin. I gotta meet Austin.
I was just curious too, as far as canning goes.
Yeah.
Does that all take place here?
Yeah.
It's all done on premises. Okay.
All right, well, let's move on to, I think you're having a release today.
Yes, we do have an event today. It is Cellar Door #1. Yeah. This is our first release in our specialty line, the Cellar Door series. This is #1, which is our Belgian quad. This is actually a collab we did with our local homebrew club, the Bay Area Mastronauts.
Wait, say that one more time.
Our local homebrew club, Bay Area Mastronauts.
Mastronauts.
Bay Area Mastronauts?
That's
Mash.
Oh, Smastronauts.
Mastronauts. Yeah.
Oh, Mastronauts, like MASH.
Yeah, like MASH. Yeah, so they're the homebrew club for this area, and they're the people that Josh was a member of. I was a member of. I think Lewis was probably a member of. We kind of like graduated out of that homebrew into professional brewing. But like, they're our local club, and they even like have their meetings here in this Texas room once a month. But yeah, we wanted to do something special with them. We wanted to, celebrate our roots, like getting back to like making craft beer be a thing that's fun and experimental and a communal thing where you bring in your buddies and all that stuff. And so we had a big brew day for this quad. We sat down with them and put together a recipe of like, this is the kind of stuff I'm thinking. This is the kind of stuff I'm thinking. We took all that. I took the notes together. I compiled it into one recipe. I was like, everyone like this? Cool. All right. We brew it. We had a bottle day last week. And so now we have, for the first time, bombers. We've got quad and the 22 ounces, and today is the release day. And
that's awesome.
It's a big old party.
Fantastic. Yeah, but this is the first
delicious.
And this is the first bomber that y'all have put out.
First bomber.
That is quite the occasion.
Yeah.
Huge.
I just took my first sip and I looked over at Brett and I was just like, holy shit.
I've already
that
finished
is
2 of those.
Thank you.
That is so good. What is the ABV on this?
10.
And do you plan on throwing it in a barrel at some point?
Not this one, because I've already bottled and kegged the entire batch. But if we make it again, it would be fun to throw in a barrel.
And so you said that this is Cellar Series number 1.
Number 1.
Which would imply that there is more planned.
We will make more, yeah.
Fantastic. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, it's really good.
Any plan on how far in between you guys are planning on releasing the Cellar Series?
We haven't sat down and put that together yet. I think an initial goal is probably 1 a year.
Okay.
And you mentioned bottled and kegs. So obviously it's here on draft. You can get
Yes.
bombers here.
Yes.
Are there kegs out in the general Houston area of this as well? Or is it a tap room only type thing?
I am actually not sure.
I know that's a distribution
I
question.
think you can buy the keg here, but I don't think
Yeah,
they're around town.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you can buy kegs from us. I don't think anyone has it yet. I do think some of it is going at least out to our other markets. I don't know if any. Actually, I don't think any is going around Houston. I think it's
really?
only here in Houston.
Where are the other markets? So outside of Houston?
Yeah, so we're all over the state. We're in DFW, we're in Austin, San Antonio, we're down in Corpus, the Valley, like all over the place.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You're definitely not in Colorado, and that's much to my detriment, unfortunately.
But with the quality of
We're
beer
working
you
on
have,
multi-state.
That's a matter of time. That's just a matter of time. Like I've went through this whole entire flight. I'll admit, like I wasn't familiar with Saloon Door very much. I just kept hearing the name, and so we're like, all right, let's do it. I reached out to Jason, who was very open to having a sit down. Getting you on the mic has been fantastic. I've learned way more than I ever thought I would about barrel aging beers and all that. And I count myself incredibly lucky to be here. I think that right now, though, we should go drink some more of this quad, because I don't think this one little taster is going to be enough. But, dude, I am beside myself with how much I've enjoyed every single one of these beers. It's rare that you go to a brewery and there's not one. There's one that you're like, I can take it or leave it. And I'm not blowing smoke up your ass, because I'll be honest, I was just at a brewery yesterday and I was just like, there's one beer that I would take.
Yeah.
And like, this one, every single one, all the
No
different
label.
styles. That
Oh, throwing it down.
That's not the one I was thinking of. So we've been to 2 breweries in the past 24 hours. So we're like, there's a good reason we're not doing the podcast here. But I trust my boy's opinion so much that I know that when we showed up, I just didn't understand how good it was. I didn't understand how much I was going to enjoy it. And each one I hit, I was waiting to, like push through and just put on a good face. And each one I personally think that you guys have nailed it.
It's been a pleasure to sit down with you.
Well,
man,
I
it's been
did
great.
cheat a little bit. I picked all those beers.
There we go. Here I'm getting shots that he does not deserve.
No, thank you. That does mean a lot. Like again, truly, like this is always one of the more fun parts of getting to be in the professional beer industry, is getting to sit down and talk about it. I am always very appreciative of people when they enjoy what I've made, because I make it to be enjoyed. And if you don't like it,
Go fuck yourself.
don't pretend. Just put it down. Go find something you like, because that's the point of beer.
Right.
Yeah.
Variety. I just set us up to end the episode, but there's one question that actually I've been wanting to ask for a while, and it's around water.
Yeah.
Houston, you're not going to have, springs out of the Colorado mountains or whatever.
No.
And from what I've heard, water is such a huge part of brewing that the reason that places like Washington and Colorado have such a huge craft beer scene is because the water is so good and it's much easier. Mm-hmm. How do you handle Houston water and getting this product that you've come out with?
So we are actually really lucky because in this Clear Lake area, Clear Lake Water Authority, the water we get from City of Houston is high quality water. We got it sample tested to see what the salt profile was on it, and it's very versatile. It doesn't have anything in it that is off-putting. It doesn't have it's not stuff that I got to remove a lot from. There's only a few things I got to add to it to make the different styles I want, because the reason so many beers are so different originally is because of the water profile. There are different water profiles that make different kinds of beer. There's a reason that the Czechs make pills and the Irish made stouts. It's because the water quality was so different. It makes a different beer. You could not make a Czech pills off of water out of the Liffey in Dublin. You just couldn't, because it's not soft enough. A way that a lot of people get around that is they use an RO system, reverse osmosis. It strips everything out of it, and you just add in salts the way you want. RO systems are expensive and a lot of work and an absolute headache, and I don't have one.
A waste of water too, right?
They do spend a lot more water. I have a carbon filter that removes the chlorine and that stuff, and that's all I got to do. This is actually high quality water. The home brewers in this area, you don't got to do anything to your water. You just filter it through carbon and you're good to go.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Well, Alex, thank you so much, man. I'm going to definitely jump off the mic and grab some more quad, probably some more ridiculous as fuck. I'm not driving later, guys. I'm going to get us back to the home, and then it's going to be Uber.
Uber.
But everyone that comes to the Houston area needs to make their way down to Saloon Door. We have some amazing stuff in Houston. We really do, between Carbach and St. Arnold, just to be the big guys that have been around for a while. Definitely hit those up. But when we decided to come to Houston and we wanted to sit down with one, we want to highlight someone that I think is a little bit off of the charts of some folks, and I don't think it's going to be that long before Saloon Door is a little bit more of a household name. I think it's all due to just the quality of what you guys have put down.
Thank you.
All right.
Let's drink.
Let's drink.
Let's drink.
All right, buddy.
Iron Woodstock.